Stop. A massive atmospheric revolution is unfolding right now, and what I'm about to show you will change everything you thought you knew about this winter. Multiple tornado threats are converging on both coasts simultaneously, something we rarely see. The West Coast is about to get hammered with severe storms and tornado potential in areas that almost never see this kind of threat. And here's what should grab your attention. This is just the opening act. A dramatic pattern flip is officially underway that will reshape the entire weather landscape across the United States. We're talking about a complete atmospheric reorganization, from brutal Arctic cold to record-breaking warmth, from historic snowstorms to severe weather outbreaks. And this could be the last major winter blast before everything changes for the rest of the season. But here's what makes this absolutely critical. The timing of these pattern changes creates the most dangerous weather scenarios we can experience. When warm air collides with Arctic cold, that's when nature unleashes its full fury. We're looking at multiple threats hitting simultaneously over the next 2 weeks. Tornado outbreaks, blizzard conditions, ice storms, and severe weather events, all happening in rapid succession. I'm talking about a weather pattern that could impact tens of millions of people across multiple regions. This isn't your typical winter weather. This is an atmospheric battle that will determine the fate of the rest of winter 2026. Now, let me break down exactly what's happening with this pattern, because understanding the mechanics will help you prepare for what's coming. Right now, we still have that cut-off low flow positioned along the west coast, and this is bringing storms that are about to ramp up significantly. You can see this system intensifying as we go through later this evening into tomorrow, and especially tomorrow evening is where you have your biggest threat. Now, the National Weather Service has put out an outlook for these storms, and here's what's critical. Today, we still have chances for tornadoes over Southern California. That's not something you hear every day. The cities at risk include Los Angeles, San Diego, and parts of the Inland Empire, areas that rarely deal with tornado threats. But as this builds into Friday, going overnight into Saturday, this is where you have another threat for damaging winds and tornadoes over the West Coast. Now, here's what makes this setup particularly dangerous. When you look at the atmospheric profile, we're seeing significant wind shear combining with unstable air masses. This is textbook conditions for rotating supercells. And while the tornado threat on the West Coast might seem unusual, the atmospheric dynamics are absolutely supportive of this kind of severe weather. But the West Coast isn't the only area facing severe threats. Those storms coming across the southeast are building up for tomorrow into Saturday, bringing a tornado threat as well. And here's what should concern you. The southeast actually has a bigger tornado threat than the West Coast. When you look at the significant tornado parameters, that lower half of those storms right on the bottom of that tail is where your best chance for these tornadoes to appear. Now let me show you the timing on this because it's critical for your safety. As you go through Friday night, overnight into Saturday, this is where you have the biggest threat for the tornadoes to come through. We're looking at the possibility of multiple supercells popping up, potentially by lunchtime on Saturday. But it grows once you go into the afternoon, especially for Alabama going through the panhandle of Florida, then turning into a damaging wind event. The cities and states at risk for severe weather Friday night going into Saturday include Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and the Florida panhandle. We're talking about the potential for damaging winds exceeding 60 miles per hour, large hail, and tornadoes, some of which could be significant. When you see supercells forming in this kind of pattern, you need to take it seriously. Now here's where the pattern gets even more complex. We're still in that blocking pattern where all the cold temperatures are going through the Midwest, the Great Lakes, out through the Northeast for the next 3 or 4 more days, maybe even 5 more days. This Arctic air is locked in place, and it's not going anywhere quickly. You might even see a little bit of snow come through on this next clipper. A couple of clippers are still going to be passing by. This one is coming through for Monday for the Midwest and the Great Lakes, maybe the interior Northeast, while you get more storms, more snow, and more rainfall coming through for the West Coast for next week. Now, when you look at the jet stream pattern, you can see exactly why this blocking is so persistent. The polar jet stream is being lifted very far north while we have troughing developing along the West Coast. This creates that blocking high over the central United States that keeps the cold air entrenched. But here's what's about to change everything. By the end of next week, we go into that big, warmer anomaly. And at the end of it is where we can have some strong storms. As we go past 7 days, this is where the cold air is coming through for next weekend. This is where we're getting a lot of moisture coming through from the Gulf, and it starts bringing chances for multiple storms to form up. Now, with this pattern bringing another dusting of 1 to 2, 1 to 3 inches all the way until Saturday and Sunday, but the one coming through for the Midwest on Monday could actually bring a good bit of snow. We could be looking at a major snowstorm that could come through for North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan, northern Michigan, and the interior Northeast, maybe out through New England. This isn't just a light dusting. We're talking about the potential for 6 to 12 inches of snow, possibly more in the hardest hit areas. The snow-to-liquid ratios could be very high with this Arctic air in place, meaning fluffy, accumulating snow that will make travel extremely difficult. Then, right after that, we're going into that colder blast next weekend, and more snowstorms possibly could form. But this is where we get our dramatic change. So, you see on the EPO, the big high ridge that's going to be on the west coast, bringing that above-average anomaly. And you see also it's still going right into that deep trough as we go through next weekend and beyond. But if you take a look at the Arctic oscillation, when you're looking at that deep trough, you can see that the cold air is still coming through, but it's going to be northern in the US. It could still possibly come further south, but remember from yesterday, it showed a deep punch. It has retracted back a great deal after that. So after we deal with this cold blast coming through for next weekend, potentially not going as deep, we will see. After that, the cold air is headed northern for the rest of January and into February, and possibly a bigger, stronger, warmer pattern as we go through February. This is showing that after we get through next week with this cold blast coming through, we still got to pan out how deep this is going. After that, we're going into warmer scenarios. And here's why this matters for everyone watching. Once again, when you go through the pattern changes, the seasonal changes, this makes for dangerous storms. You usually have a lot of cold air, a lot of warm air, and a lot of high ridges and deep troughs bringing a lot of storms, a lot of severe weather, a lot of snow still, but probably a lot more ice. This transition period is when we see the most volatile and unpredictable weather. Now we're talking about next week. This is literally 7 days away, everybody, as we're getting that deep trough Thursday into Friday. And this is where we can get storm systems starting to build up for the south. Now this is bringing chances for severe weather. This will bring damaging winds and chances for tornadoes. When you get that cold blast coming through all next weekend, this first storm system is not meeting up with the temperatures and it's pretty far away. So I don't think it's going to be a close chance for a snowstorm for that. But as we go into next weekend, then we have that deeper trough coming through and a chance for another storm system to pop up over here by the Central Plains, by Missouri, going towards the Ohio Valley, maybe bringing another snowstorm and another severe weather event while you get that cold blast coming through. The latest outlooks show a risk for heavy snow from January 8th through the 14th as we go through that deep trough and that high ridge, bringing chances for snow over along the Midwest going towards the Great Lakes. So all the way until Wednesday, everybody, the storms that come across the southeast, what's left for the northeast, this was a good bit of snow as well. But all that rainfall coming in from Southern California all the way up towards Washington as we go through the weekend, bringing chances for 2 and 3 inches all the way across, but heavier across Northern California still. When you see this kind of moisture streaming in from the Pacific, you know the atmospheric river is active. This means flooding concerns, especially in areas that have already seen significant rainfall. But as we go into next week, this is where we're going with those multiple storms forming up and start bringing more precipitation across the southern and the eastern U.S. After we get those clippers and the snowfall that's adding up over here for the Midwest, the Great Lakes, going out through the northeast, and still bringing feet of snow towards the western U.S., all towards the Sierra Nevada. All across the Rockies, just showing that's going to be feet of snow. We're talking about mountain snow totals that could exceed 3 to 5 feet in the highest elevations. Ski resorts are going to see incredible conditions, but avalanche danger will be extremely high. Backcountry travel will be life-threatening in these conditions. Right after that is when we can potentially get that snowstorm coming through for next weekend, showing more likely will be over here along the Great Lakes, and just too warm right here for the Central Plains for y'all to actually get that snow. We got time to pan that out. That is still literally 8 days away from that point. I will keep you updated. When you try and compare it to GFS, it's really hard because GFS is always all over the place. You can see on the run right before this, it's just all over the place. But it is seeing a very deep trough and that very high ridge. The Euro is saying after this deep trough, it's going to be more of a relaxed ridge and not so high, showing that we have warmer temperatures coming through. But then we have our blast for next weekend. So look at this. As we go through this weekend into next week, this is where we have the colder air off. We have a warmer scenario on the southern half of the US all week long. You see that all the way to Wednesday, Thursday, even Friday. Then we have that cold anomaly that's going to come through for next weekend, and it's showing that's going to go pretty deep. But look on the southern side. You see, when that comes through on the southern side, you can see a warmer air aloft for the southern half of the US. You see that blocking that cold blast from coming all the way towards the Gulf. So we're going to see more of an extreme weather pattern where everything is going to come down into a deep trough. It's going to go up towards a higher ridge. And this area right here is going to bring snowstorms, possibly severe weather, and more ice storms as we go through next weekend. This is the kind of setup that creates historic weather events. When you have that strong temperature gradient, that's when the atmosphere becomes most unstable. That's when we see rapid intensification of storm systems. That's when ordinary winter storms can turn into bombogenesis events, explosive cyclones that can bring blizzard conditions, hurricane-force winds, and life-threatening impacts. But after next weekend, this is where we go in that dramatic change with that warmer scenario on the southern half of the US and the colder scenario on the northern half. But remember what I showed you for the rest of January going into February. So this could possibly be our last very cold week as we go into next weekend. But we still got to pan out the forecast because look at the temperature change from the Euro and the GFS just going towards Friday. So this is next Friday, everybody. This is your cold temperatures coming down, bringing the wind chills with it. When you look with the GFS, you can see how it's going up on that higher ridge and a lot warmer of a scenario. European showing it coming down for Saturday again, bringing a very cold wind chill once again. This is for January 10th. Comparing this to GFS, once again, you can see almost a same weather pattern, but you see a warmer scenario on the southern half and very cold wind chills on the northern half. We're talking about wind chills that could drop to 20 to 30 degrees below zero across the upper Midwest and northern plains. And then Sunday morning, you can see it going deeper and deeper, but you can see that warmer scenario across the south and the southeast. Still showing it's going to bring some wind chills, but you see how it stays warmer down here, but everyone else is still possibly going to be very cold. Now this is where everything is dramatically different. So look at here, you have the trough, you have the ridge up here, you have the colder temperatures. And when you compare this to GFS, it's going up on a very higher ridge. You see that? A very bigger ridge. And that changed the storm tracks of what's going to happen afterwards. This is critical because the position of these ridges and troughs determines where storms will track, how intense they'll become, and what kind of precipitation we'll see. And the last shot I got for you is Monday. You can see how this cold air is still coming all the way down into the 40s. You see that? But it's not bringing the freezing temperatures, which is a very good sign. Also, the wind chills could be colder as well. But look at the difference. This is Euro. This is GFS. A big difference. As we go towards next weekend, these storms are going to make possible snowstorms as we go into another very cold weather pattern coming through for next weekend. But remember, after that, we're going on a dramatic, sharp turn to the north. After that, we're going to start warming up, everybody. And this could possibly be the last blast from what I can see anywhere towards the south for the rest of winter. Then we're going to start warming up and going towards our transition into spring. Now, I want to share something with you that goes beyond just the meteorology. When we look at these massive pattern changes, these dramatic shifts in the atmosphere, it reminds us of something much deeper. Just as the weather goes through seasons of cold and warmth, darkness and light, our lives go through seasons as well. The storms we're tracking across the country, they're temporary. This Arctic blast, as brutal as it is, it's not permanent. The severe weather threats, they will pass. And just like winter always gives way to spring, the difficult seasons in our lives always give way to renewal and new beginnings. There's a divine order to all of this, a rhythm that's been set in motion since the beginning of creation. When you see these atmospheric patterns, the jet stream flowing, the high-pressure systems building, the low-pressure systems intensifying, it's all part of a magnificent design. The same God who set the stars in place, who commands the seas, who tells the sun when to rise and set, He's the one orchestrating these weather patterns. And He's the same God who's orchestrating the seasons of your life. In 2 Corinthians 5:17, it says, "Therefore, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new." Just like this weather pattern is about to flip, bringing warmth after the cold, bringing renewal after the harsh winter, God can flip the patterns in your life. Whatever season you're in right now, whether you're in a cold Arctic blast of difficulty, or whether you're in a warm period of blessing, remember that seasons change. And just like we prepare for these weather changes, we need to prepare our hearts and minds for the changes God wants to bring in our lives. When you change and walk away from sin, you need to get the renewing of your mind, the way you think. That starts everything. The transformation begins in your thinking, just like these weather patterns begin with changes in the upper atmosphere. So, as you're preparing your emergency supplies for these storms, as you're checking your weather radios and stocking up on food and water, I want to encourage you to also prepare your heart. Make sure your foundation is solid. Make sure you're grounded in faith, because the storms of life, they're going to come just like these weather storms. But when you're anchored in something greater than yourself, you can weather any storm. Now, let me give you the specific preparation steps you need to take immediately for this weather pattern. If you're in the severe weather zones across the southeast or west coast this weekend, you need to have multiple ways to receive warnings. Make sure your phone has weather alerts enabled. Have a NOAA weather radio with fresh batteries. Know where your safe place is in your home, that interior room on the lowest floor away from windows. For those in the snow zones across the Midwest and Great Lakes, especially Monday's potential major snowstorm, you need to prepare now before the stores get crowded. Stock up on non-perishable food for at least 7 days. Make sure you have adequate heating sources and backup power. If you lose electricity with these kind of temperatures, it becomes life-threatening very quickly. Check on your elderly neighbors and family members. Make sure they have what they need. Make sure they have a way to stay warm. Hypothermia and carbon monoxide poisoning spike during these events. Never use generators, camp stoves, or grills indoors. The carbon monoxide can be deadly within minutes. For next weekend's potential major winter storm, start preparing now. Don't wait until the storm is 24 hours out. Get your vehicles serviced. Make sure your battery is strong, your antifreeze is topped off, your tires have good tread. Keep your gas tank at least half full, because if you get stranded, you'll need that fuel to run your heat. Put together a winter car kit with blankets, flashlight, first aid supplies, non-perishable snacks, water, phone charger, sand or kitty litter for traction, and a small shovel. If you get stuck in a snowstorm, these supplies could save your life. And remember, the safest place during a winter storm is at home. Avoid unnecessary travel when conditions deteriorate. Now, here's what you need to understand about the broader implications of this pattern. We're not just looking at individual storm events. We're looking at a complete reorganization of the atmospheric pattern that will affect the entire rest of winter and early spring. The warmth that's going to build after next weekend's cold blast, this could be a permanent shift. Climate patterns are showing that La Niña conditions are supporting more active storm tracks across the United States, but also supporting this eventual warmth. When we transition from winter into spring during these kinds of setups, that's when we see the most explosive severe weather potential. March and April could be extremely active for tornadoes and severe storms. The snowpack that's building in the mountains right now, when that starts melting with the warmer temperatures, we could be looking at significant flooding concerns, especially across the upper Midwest and areas near the Great Lakes. River flooding could become a major issue by late winter. Early spring, the economic impacts of this pattern are going to be substantial. We're talking about potential crop damage from ice storms, infrastructure damage from heavy snow loads, power grid stress from extreme temperature swings, and supply chain disruptions from multiple winter storms hitting in succession. The insurance industry is going to see massive claims from this pattern. But beyond all the meteorology, beyond all the preparation and planning, I want you to remember that we're not in this alone. Above all things, all glory goes to God, our Father in heaven, Yahweh. He's sovereign over every storm, every temperature change, every atmospheric shift, and just as He commands the weather, He's working in your life for your good. The same power that calms the seas, that stops the storms, that brings sunshine after the rain, that power is available to you in your life. Whatever you're facing, whatever storm you're going through, call out to Him, trust in Him. He's faithful, He'll never leave you nor forsake you. So to wrap this up, everybody, here are your key takeaways. Severe weather threats for both coasts this weekend. Tornadoes possible from California to the southeast. Monday's clipper could bring significant snow to the upper Midwest and Great Lakes. Next weekend brings another major cold blast with potential for a significant winter storm. After that, we transition to warmth for much of the country, possibly ending the winter pattern for southern states. This is a historic setup that will be talked about for months to come. The combination of severe weather, winter storms, and dramatic temperature swings all happening in rapid succession is extremely rare. Make sure you're prepared. Make sure your family is ready. And make sure you're staying updated because conditions are going to change rapidly. Drop your location in the comments below, and I'll give you specific guidance for what to expect in your area. Share this video with your friends and family who need to know about these threats. And remember, preparation is the key to staying safe. The atmosphere is about to go through a revolutionary change. But with proper preparation and faith, you can navigate through whatever comes. Stay weather aware, stay prepared, and most importantly, stay blessed. I'll be here tracking every development, bringing you updates as this dangerous pattern unfolds. Until next time, may God keep you safe every single day of your life and forever. Amen. Hallelujah. Have a great day, everybody.